Hey there, welcome to episode 43 of the Quaggling Sand audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this late in the day, for almost 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, September 4, 2024. Today we are going to speak about something I was known for quite some time. And maybe I still am in some weird underground factions of mobile vending. What is up with food trucks? I spell food trucks as two words. Some people spell it as one word. I think it's sort of like the Emacs VI Wars or Nevada, and the list of things. There's always two camps. So I usually spell it as two words, food trucks. Hence the title. For the longest time, I was heavily involved with food trucks. So kind of get into a little bit of the backstory and where things are today. And I will say I've not really visited a food truck in quite some time. There is one very nice owner, James, with Two New Fix, which is a Guamese food trailer. He is sometimes very nearby. If I walk by, he usually, hey, how's it going? We catch up a little bit and chat. He's a very nice guy. But I have not been to a food truck event or really kind of assessed the scene in the greater Vegas area in years. A pandemic essentially was a good time to step away from the drama. So we'll get into this a little bit and where things sit now with my software aspirations. I'm still a software engineer after all, and how all this began and where it is. And so before we do that, Quaggling Sand, if you're new to this, is a term that I coined when I was very young. I haven't heard back with a specific age range from the people who would know, but I think I was like 3 years old, say, for something preschool era. And you might call it pins and needles. It's the sensation you feel when you've perhaps been sitting on your leg or laying on your arm or vice versa, and it goes numb, and then as circulation returns, as all those nerves wake back up, it can be quite unusual. Quaggling Sand. Now it's a audio program about some stories, some lessons learned from those stories. Perhaps someday there will be people interested in telling their version of a story or a little banter back and forth. Who knows? But this is mostly a story essay channel. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you are able to see the episode description, wherein I have placed the show notes. There's a summary, which I will read, and some links. There's only the 2 shameless self-promotion links and 2 relevant links about the Las Vegas Las Vegas being Greater Vegas, mobile food vending scene today-ish. So let's get started. The summary. Food trucks are cool and fun and often quite tasty, but they're also often a single, fingers crossed, small business taking a chance sometimes in an environment where they are not always loved nor appreciated by their competitors. Stuck in the ground, they are. I'll get into that in just a moment for a little bit more detail. Let us speak of mobile vendors in Vegas. The problem with restaurants usually, or any brick and mortar, they can't move. The frequent argument is, the food truck, or there are mobile vendors who do not sell food. There will be mobile clothing or similar. Not as common and not nearly so well promoted. If one pulls up right outside your door of your business, you're taking my customers. You're stealing my customers. There is often very little appreciation by the business owner for their competitor rolling up, parking on the street, then leaving. Oh, you don't pay rent, you don't pay insurance for being, you're not a part of this economy, so you're in here stealing from me. And so protectionist legislation and regulations will often prevent mobile business from being done within so many hundreds of feet, usually in feet, from the entrance of a restaurant or other storefront. This is not such a big deal with farmers markets. These are often considered to be not so competitive, but mobile vending is mobile vending when you think about it. So not loved by all. In fact, one of my talking points when we were forming the Nevada Mobile Vendors Association, which I will touch on briefly today, but that's not really the focus of today's episode. But when we were forming that, I used to say, the National Restaurant Association, the NRA, but not that one. National Restaurant Association has a very strong presence in Nevada, especially given the sort of world-renowned power and respect held by the Culinary Union in the Southern Nevada area. So brick and mortar and restaurants and the Culinary Union members and all of this, health code regulations and so on, are really pro brick and mortar restaurants stuck in the ground and are really a challenge for mobile vending, especially food trucks. So when you're trying to get into a small business, I'll start a food truck. It's important to realize that there are some places like the San Francisco Bay Area or Southern California or Austin, I think to some degree. Chicago was really a challenge, but there was a large customer base that was fan enough to make the fight worthwhile for some. But if you are, and of course New York has a very long history since it was New Amsterdam of street vending and all that. But it's a challenge when you are considered to be something of a pariah instead of a part of a marketplace, part of a local economy. The two terms I would use frequently are social activation and portable variety. So if you I used to live in Sunnyvale, downtown Sunnyvale, had a few restaurants. They were there. They're not going anywhere. So at any given time, you have a selection of restaurants. If you can introduce portable variety, so temporary, there's a different ethnicity, there's a different food style. There's an ice cream truck and a sandwich truck. We don't have ice cream nor sandwiches available on Murphy, not back then. So portable variety brings a change of pace. Let's go check out this food truck, see what they got. Portable variety leads to social activation. I haven't been downtown in a while. It's been a couple weeks. I didn't know that restaurant had a special on whatever. So when you activate an area, you bring people to it who normally would not have been there at that time on that day. So the smart business person takes advantage of that, but the usual route is to complain. They're stealing our customers. I always tell a story about the coffee shop on Murphy Avenue, the owner, Kenny, and I wish I could remember the shop name. I've said it before. I know I could just Google it, but maybe I will. Why not? Since we're here, since we're still pre-show, that is, I have not even gotten to the links yet. Coffee shop, Murphy Ave, Sunnyvale, California. What do we got? The Bean Scene. Is that right? I guess so. Oh, weird. It's already closed. Apparently they've adjusted their hours. It used to be open till about 8 p.m. And I used to stay there till the doors were closing, maybe 7 p.m. But it's 5:30 now, and according to Google Maps, it's closed. The Bean Scene, the owner, Kenny, I don't remember his wife's name, but they own the place. They saw that the farmers market, which was normally on Murphy Avenue, and so a case in point of social activation, the farmers market booth set up and down the street, pedestrian mode, no car traffic, would bring people on Saturdays. So, of course, you invite people into your coffee shop. You've purchased your vegetables and your other farmers market goodies. Come and have a seat, enjoy the day, sidewalk seating, etc. When the road construction on Murphy, sewer, plumbing, big giant tear up of the street, led to the farmers market moving to across Evelyn, if you're familiar with the area, to the Caltrain station parking lot. The business owners on Murphy were freaked out. You're taking all of our customers away. Business owners love to complain. What you're doing to me? Kenny, on the other hand, said, and opened a tent at the farmer's market. So he would sell out of his coffee products, and probably he brought some snacks, I think. Sell out through the day, through the couple of hours. I think I want to say the farmer's market was like 8 a.m. to noon or something like that. So he'd sell out and then send people to his coffee shop. Hey, when you're done, you can go just walk down the sidewalk there, watch the construction, go hang out. So he turned a change in market conditions that was still activating an area. It was just an area that was maybe 100 yards away. He turned that into an opportunity to engage the same customers, new customers, and he made it work. So that's the difference between allowing the perception of things being done to me and taking action. And this applies also to small business owners on wheels. Mobile vendors have a similar issue with regulations mostly being done to them. There are too many examples to get into today, but one of these days I will talk about this a lot more. So for the moment, though, let's get to the links. The shameless promotion, self-promotion, buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo and Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo. These I use to publish my links to various audio programs and projects and whatnot. You are under no obligation to spend any money there. Feel free to. My projects are powered by coffee, and I've even included some links to some of my favorite beans. Beans that I typically just purchase through Amazon. There are a couple of other places to get interesting things, but my go-to beans, Death Wish coffee, Lavazza, espresso. There's a couple more listed there. So these are good. These are my go-to subscription, subscribe and save on Amazon. So I get a 2 pound, 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds, 1 kilogram whole bean, Lavazza, espresso, Grand Crema, or whatever I'm in the mood for. And that's a good month of coffee. Throw in some Death Wish, espresso roast or dark roast. Those are very nice, etc. So I have those listed there. No, don't buy me coffee bean. Don't none of that. If you would like to throw $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever into the chip jar, that's fine. No obligation. So buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo. The big thing is I will post more links to those as more things come together. There's the In Las Vegas project, which is sort of the crux of my food truck future, and some other stuff I'm working on. So those will start to appear there as progress is made. And Ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo, ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo. I really need to post there more and make some announcements about some things. So just keeping those alive. These are both sites that are often used by open source projects to allow people to support them in small ways. So I'm kind of in that bandwagon. Now, there's a Las Vegas food truck park opening early 2025, they say. So I've posted a official city government website page, a blog page, about the Arts District, 18B, will have, and this has been tried before over the years, but we'll see what happens with this one. They are now claiming that there will be a food truck park. If it's in this precise area that I'm thinking, it will not be large. So nothing like the Soma Street Food Park in San Francisco or so many other places where you could have 12, 15, sometimes more. But there will be a food truck park opening in the Arts District. Now, I will say, when this has been tried before, I think about 2 years ago was the more recent city council voted against it. Why? Because all of the restaurants and bars, actually more of the restaurants in the Arts District said, yeah, you're going to steal our customers. So you're not activating the area. You don't bring portable variety. You're just stealing our customers. Now, the really strange thing is that First Friday, which is so often confused as being a specific event. First Friday is a day on the calendar. It happens to be a Friday, and it's usually the first one each month. So the First Friday Foundation is a nonprofit entity. I believe it's a 501c3, public charity, for uplifting the arts in the Arts District. So if you were to look at Maine in downtown in the Arts District, I believe the food truck park will be somewhere on there. I didn't really like. I'm not. Someday I'll go visit the actual site and get a feel for it. I kind of understand what they're thinking. They didn't provide a ton of information. There's apparently parking, which is good, and there is an indoor component and an outdoor parking, food truck parking component. So those are all interesting things. Now, if you go north on Main to where the First Friday event is typically held, and the configuration of First Friday changes, it's not frequently, but more than none. So it looks like they straddle a street near the Arts Factory. So they block traffic and place tents and booths, vendors, artists, and so on. And then the food trucks are somewhere in a parking lot that's nearby. So it's kind of clustered together. Back in the day, back when Downtown Project was more proactively funding the First Friday Foundation, the First Friday event was easily twice as large, and it crossed over Charleston. So there'd be food trucks over here, food trucks over there. They had them all split up into different areas, so little pockets of portable variety. It was kind of interesting. It was arguably better attended, but yeah, we'll see. One of the challenges is that First Friday is considered to be the place to go for food trucks, not just one day on a calendar. And you run into trouble with marketing mobile vendors. So there are some people who just go to First Friday. They're only there. So that's not for me to argue today. But the bottom line is, pardon me, for all of the angst that surrounded the previous food truck park notion in the Arts District, there is a food truck event once a month that is of substantial size that turns out is a social activation event, brings a ton of people down to the Arts District, and those people will tend to hang out after First Friday is done, or they'll wander like, hey, let's go to that Cornish pasty, or let's go to the Good Pie Pizza or something, because like, oh yeah, these food trucks are okay. I don't like food trucks, or there's nothing here I want to have today, or I've been meaning to come down here. So it brings people to downtown. They don't necessarily need to patronize the food trucks, but maybe some people will because they're there and so on. So it's something that has been a model to look at, like the impact on local business and so on, for a decade, maybe a little bit more, probably 12, 13 years. So the data has been there, just nobody looks at it. They just default to the bottom. Oh, nope, you're stealing my customers. I've taken pictures of the site where First Friday takes place on Thursday, and there's nobody there. So very clearly, people are not coming there to hang out, nor are they coming there and thinking, we should go to those restaurants 2 blocks away. They're coming there for the first production by street. They're coming there for the event, and the event is made up of artists and other creative people with tents and booths, and there's the Arts Factory and the other businesses there, and food trucks. And food trucks, by the way, I believe are charged something like $450 to participate. So they're kind of fueling the event, and they're kind of part of the reason that people come to the Arts District. So it's an opportunity, just like the coffee scenario I described earlier, not something to complain about. So I never really understood that. I mean, I do understand it, but I don't understand why people don't peel back the layer of the onion and say, wait a minute, people are coming here because of the food trucks. They're not stealing our cut. It's kind of like the music piracy thing. You downloaded all those MP3s you've stolen from us. Well, I wasn't going to buy the albums, but I downloaded the MP3s to listen to the music, and I didn't like the music, so I deleted them. So you end up with casting a wider net to people who normally wouldn't consume the products. They wouldn't come and visit the area, but maybe they're visiting. Vegas has a huge visitor population that passes through town every year, 40 million people, give or take. So if somebody says, oh, there's a First Friday event, let's check out what's going on in Vegas instead of hanging out on the strip all the time. Oh, look, there's all these food trucks. How neat. Oh, there's all this stuff in the Arts District. Hey, and I have spoken to people at CES who were not aware of an Arts District. So, so what's cool to do here? And I said, well, pick a night. There's a thing going on. There's a barbecue place, and there's a this and that. And they're like, oh, you have an Arts District? So these are opportunities to bring people social activation, remember, to a geographical area who might otherwise not visit. And that's one of the upsides of mobile vending in general, portable variety. And there was a famous Burger King employee who worked at Burger King for 29 years, and Burger King didn't really do much. Like, oh, here's a free meal. Here's your promo meal for working. And so there was a GoFundMe, and there was a huge outreach. And I did look at the GoFundMe, but I'm not remembering the dollar amount. But it was like hundreds of thousands of dollars from people around the country who said, oh, that's ridiculous. Here's a couple bucks. And I don't know if this is going to surprise anyone, but Kevin Ford, the employee in question, is right here in Vegas. So he purchased a home and is apparently now starting a food truck, really a food trailer, if you want to be pedantic. And it's called B29. What is it? I literally was just looking at it. I'm looking at this article right here, and it is called... where is it? Where is it? They just had a picture of it. Okay. This is not cooperating. Let's see what his TikTok says. So this is one of the problems that I'll get to is promotion in local media of food trucks and mobile vendors in general is impossible. Here, 27 years, 29 years. So there's a little bit of a variation. Yeah, good luck. Good luck trying to figure out the name of his truck. I think it's K29Y. K27Y, K29Y. Let me try to find this. I think it's K29Y. Yeah, we get 27 and 29 mixed together. So this is one of the challenges. I think it's K27Y for Kevin, 27 years. Could be K29Y. Who knows? So here's the problem. Branding, including logo, name of truck, etc. Food trucks, and it may be in the article, I just skimmed through it, but I think it's K29Y or K27Y. Again, 27 years, 29 years. These are things that are important if it's part of the name and people get it wrong. And so I will kind of touch on this, but essentially what it comes down to is when people write a news article or mention in a blog or foodies want to post a link to something, especially a food truck, these are moving targets. So where do I find this food truck? Oh, go to their website, go to their Facebook page, go to their Instagram, go to their, are they still open? They haven't posted a picture in 30 weeks. Like, oh yeah, now they're a brick and mortar because of the pandemic. Well, none of these pieces of information are ever updated. So it becomes a mystery. And that's not a great way to engage your customers or maintain those connections, etc. So in this case, this person who gained a certain amount of, minor celebrity fame because of the Burger King incident is going to open a food trailer. It will be interesting to see how that turns out. But the take home is that even though he's going to get a lot of press, he doesn't have any presence. I think I visited his Instagram page for the upcoming food truck. Let me make one last try. Oh, K27Y. Okay. K27Y. Ridiculous. So not 29, 27. There is no website for K27Y. So he has no experience with this. And and again, most media doesn't know what to do with this. So they'll mention the name. Now, in the Bay Area, we had food trucks called like Omi Ninja, but it was spelled O''MI something. I think there was some other punctuation in there, and then Ninja, Ninja. So there'd be all manner of OHMY, OHME, Omi Ninja. And so you couldn't find it. Why? Because search back then, this was back in 2008 or so, search would be very literal. So if you didn't know how to spell it, you're not going to find it. So I was very focused on fuzzy matching and so on. So my goal was to be able to find Omi Ninja given any number of misspellings. And that worked. It's not hard to do if you just do it. Nowadays, you're more likely to get matches. But would you find K29Y if you mistakenly thought that's what it was? And then where are you going to land? On an Instagram page? Mostly you'll pull up newspaper or news articles talking about this person, and those are months old. So great, you matched on the name of your food trailer I'm making the distinction for no good. I mean, it's food truck, food trailer, mobile kitchen. It's still nobody's going to know where to find you. So we end up with this static representation of a misspelled notion of a business, a small business. If the same thing happened to a brick and mortar, if you said, hey, there's a new store open, I'm going to misspell the name of the store and I'm not going to tell you the address, that doesn't help much. So having a place to point your customers that is current and updated and really does tell them where to go and where to be found is not just helpful, it's kind of the bare minimum. So those are the links. Let's get down and dirty with food trucks. Actually, food trucks are very clean. They're inspected all the time. Why food trucks? That is a great question. So I hail from New Jersey. I had early, though somewhat minimal, exposure to mobile food vendors, street vendors, like I said. My favorites being Italian ice and pretzels. Hot dogs, not so much. That's a different story for another time. While living in Silicon Valley, for my second tour, so I moved back to Silicon Valley in 2005. I stayed there till 2013. So I encountered a food truck event called Edgewood Eats on a recommendation from a teller at my credit union. The credit union was literally across the street from my workplace, which was at the time Aleph, soon to be Jawbone, right there in Sunnyvale. So I was at the credit union. The credit union building, which is now LinkedIn headquarters, I think, in Sunnyvale, California. So before they tore it all down, built that monstrosity. So she said, hey, do you like food trucks? And I said, sure. She said, oh, my friends are opening their new food truck. They're launching it at Edgewood. It's this thing called Edgewood Eats. And the food truck's called Big Shrimpin'. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And I looked up Edgewood Eats. Now, that was another one. Another challenge is finding events and locations and so on. And located it. Edgewood was a kind of a dead grocery store parking lot near Palo Alto. And Edgewood Eats, every Thursday or Wednesday or something, they would have a food truck event there with, 8 to 12 food trucks. Legitimate. Big parking lot, places to park in the neighborhood. Nobody would freak out about street parking. And so I checked out Big Shrimpin' at Edgewood Eats. It was fun. It was like, wow, this is every week. Very, very cool. How do people figure out where this is? Oh, there's a Facebook page and no, they didn't have Facebook pages yet. Did they? There was a Twitter handle, of course, and retweeting and cross-tweeting. So mentioning all the food trucks by their Twitter handles was a critical component of getting the word out. So, okay, interesting. Now, at the time, I had been working on a mobile web idea, or right around this time, for a service industry to connect with their regulars based on a hyperlocal marketing business model. And this would be you connect with your regular customers, and then you can tell them where you are, because most people in the service industry in the Bay Area would have they'd have different shifts, sometimes at different places. They would take some time off or this or that. So, oh, where is so-and-so? I one time did a little mini survey, and 75% of the calls to small business, retail business, especially bars, small restaurants, who's working today? So the connection between your employees in the service industry and their regular customers, sometimes they're your regulars, sometimes they're their regular customers. So that connection is real, and this was going to be a tool to help maintain that connection. So you're directly engaging with your customers. This is before Facebook pages. So it was a pretty cool idea, I thought. And I was getting some interest from small business owners, like, oh, this is a way to reach customers who might be maybe they're going to come to a restaurant that's next door to my storefront, maybe a bookstore or whatever. So if I know customers are regulars of the person working next door at a coffee shop, bar, restaurant, if I know that they're more likely to come to that business establishment because that person is working on a particular day, I should be able to market to them, advertise, like, hey, since you're 100 feet away, why don't you check out a deal on a bookstore, book offering, a discount, a detail, some sort of a engagement, right? You're going to be walking distance. Why not walk over? And this is very similar to the coffee scenario with the booth at the farmer's market. Like, yeah, our business is just right over there. Just walk down the street. have a seat after you're done shopping at the farmer's market. So it's a way to engage people that are already there. It's kind of like a form of inbound marketing, right? Since you've already made the trip, do you want to walk another 100 feet and purchase a book? So I was getting real interest and some buy-in. However, the key component was participation by service industry folks to connect with their customers. But I was starting to, after the initial sort of interest, like, oh, this is really cool, there was a sort of, well, I mean, customers find me eventually. It's not a huge, so they kind of back that, not universally, but there was this sort of, this is going to be extra work, and it's not easy for people to connect a blue sky notion with how it will offer value to them. Even given a very clear description of, here's how you engage your customers now. I've talked to customers. They would be interested in knowing when their favorite, there was a guy I was talking to. This is one anecdote. He had a friend who was working at Margaritaville in, not Santa Cruz, but Capitola on the coast. So cross over the mountain, heading to Santa Cruz, go to Capitola, Margaritaville. He said, yeah, I would go there. Oh, would you go there right now if you knew she was right? Yeah, I would go over there. So this person was willing to travel over the mountains towards the coast to go visit, because he's a regular and he likes that. So this is a working scenario. There were there were anecdotes. It would be an easily provable model. I was in Silicon Valley. The notion of rolling out some piece of technology that worked on your mobile device to connect to the service industry, and this is everything from coffee shops to restaurants to hair salons, everything. It would have been easy to test, but making sure that the service industry person, and here's the tricky part, the service industry person is benefiting by connecting to their customer. My customer is the advertiser that's taking advantage of that connection. So in other words, my customer is the bookstore owner next door to the restaurant where the service industry person is making a connection to the regular so that the regular wants to come and visit so you can market. So anyway, that becomes a little bit convoluted. And while it is not impractical, it's very difficult to describe. So even though the value proposition for the service industry person, and I'm being very generic here, it could be anyone, is this connection to their minimal connection. So you're not sharing like on Facebook pages, they tend to bleed over into real life. So you might have access to more information than you intended to divulge. But this was very, very succinctly, here's my schedule. Here are the different places I'm working. Some people said, oh, that's a stalker tool. And I said, if you have a stalker, they already know where you're working. This is nothing new. So you're really reaching out to customers, your regular customers who are not stalkers, but who are interested in visiting you at your designated workplaces. And that is what powers some of the restaurant and bar industry and so on. But here's the deal. I would depend on the employees of these businesses to make these connections, and yet my customers were the businesses, small businesses that were either employing them. The restaurant would also benefit, or bar would benefit from engaging customers. Hey, I have this very popular bartender. I have a very popular barista at my coffee shop. They have a big following. You could see that. Like, oh, look, you have like 1,000 regular customers. So you could engage them. Hey, if you're in to see, Jane Doe barista, come in on those days, and you could market directly to, hey, here's a 10%, here's a whatever. So you could market directly to the regular customers of that person, or you could do the hyperlocal, why don't you wander an extra 100 feet? So once you bring the person the distance, the Capitola example, once they've traveled the long haul to get to a particular place because of a preference, a regular barista or whomever, now the question is, can you get them to travel an extra 50, 100, 200, 500 feet to take advantage of something that might, I didn't know that was here. Since I'm here, I can just walk over there. Possible. Now, that all changed when I went to Edgewood Eats, and I said, wait a minute, how do people find you? Oh, Twitter, the beginnings of Facebook, There were no Facebook pages, I think, at this time. So it was following a person as if, a food truck as if it was a person. GPS was a thing, so you could tag your tweet with a physical location, but nobody knew how to do Twitter API calls. There were opportunities to mix in locations with the panorama view of Google Maps. You could take advantage of KML, keyhole markup language files, so you could use Google Maps to open up a file of where all your favorite food trucks were. All these things are no longer supported, but it was like an interesting time to look at location, time and day, date, time, calendar, right? Like, oh, everybody has these things in their pocket. This moving business is interesting and people want to find it. Calendar, location, GPS location. What if we could get your GPS location in the future? So like, here's where I'm going to be tomorrow. And all of this is not working with an employee who could say, nah, I have regular customers. They find me. I don't have to deal with this. The business owner now becomes my customer. Like, hey, we can help you engage your food truck fans. And I was only thinking about food trucks at the time because they want to find you, but you are not in the same place. And by the way, in my travels, I spoke to, I don't even know how many thousands of food truck customers all around the Bay Area, here in Vegas, even in other parts of the world in my travels. The two biggest challenges, if you are a food truck customer, and this has been mitigated somewhat over the years because people are much more familiar with the model, the business model, the different rules. But this is, 2008 is a long time ago. It was much more Wild West. So are you guys going to be here again tomorrow or next week? And the food truck owner or the employees would say, no, our schedule is on Facebook, or just follow us on Facebook. And the person would say, well, what if I don't use Facebook? How will I find you? And there was never an answer to that. So on the one hand, I want to patronize your business, but you're not going to be in the same place again tomorrow, next week, whatever the resolution of time was, daily, weekly, monthly. We don't know. It depends on a rotation. Well, how do I figure out where you are going to be? Facebook and Twitter. Well, I don't use those, so it's kind of a mess. So you're sending people away. I want to patronize your business. Well, okay, go somewhere else. I always thought that was both comical and broken. So it's not so easy. I began to notice some of the challenges in the Bay Area and the scope and grandeur of the mobile vendor marketplace across, say, 5 counties. So you're on 2 sides of the Bay. You're in Alameda County. You're in San Francisco County. You're in Santa Clara County. What are the other ones? Who knows? I used to know all these. So by the way, 5 counties means 5 different inspection possibilities from the health departments in those counties. So whenever you'd hear people say, food trucks are a little, and you're like, hey, they get inspected all the time. They get inspected right before they open. They have to get their health permits in different counties because there's no cross registration. I don't think that's been changed. So that was always a point of contention. Why do I have to pay 5 times to do business in the 5 counties? Why can't there just be one inspection? Because everybody had different rules. Sometimes local brick and mortar businesses will recognize the 2 benefits of mobile vendors, portable variety and social activation, but often they do not. So again, I knew of one place that would say, oh, food truck, you can park on the corner here and your customers can sit at tables at my restaurant. What a brilliant idea. Rather than trying to push the food truck away, say, hey, if you're bringing customers to this place, hey, they can have a seat at my table. As long as you don't mind that I tell them, hey, if you come here when the food truck's not here, you're still welcome to sit here and you can try some of my food. So you're engaging the customers, just like Kenny from the Bean Scene, connecting with people who might otherwise not be there so that they will otherwise be there on another occasion when the food truck's not there. Come to my coffee shop regardless of the farmer's market. Oh, yeah, okay. I sometimes come here through the week. So it's an opportunity to connect with new customers and develop your customer base. And I can't remember what it is exactly, but you get a regular customer when they've been there more than 3 times. Like, okay, you're probably going to come back the 4th time and the 5th time and so on. So if you can bridge that gap between, oh, I've never been to this place before, to, oh, this is the 3rd time I've been here. I come here whenever this food truck is here. Okay, well, that still counts. You are engaging with potential future regulars. But more often though, local regulations and protectionist legislation, both to be found in Clark County here in Southern Nevada, of course, will often work against mobile small businesses in favor of those stuck in the ground. So I was literally speaking to the manager, director, or something of the section of the Southern Nevada Health District that was responsible for downtown mobile food vendor inspections. And all of her reports were the other inspectors for the other geographical regions around Clark County. So this person was, that area and so on. So her view, why should a food truck be able to operate in a place across the street, for example, from a business that's paying $5,000, $10,000 a month in rent, and they don't pay anything? So her view was extremely stilted toward brick and mortar. And in her role, she could apply pressure to the competitors of brick and mortar restaurants or bars to say, oh, I prefer those who are paying their rent every month, indirectly coupled, but still. I am more interested in these businesses that pay rent to operate, not in these fly-by-night mobile, they can just drive off whenever. So there's this really broken attitude as if not having tables, chairs, metal utensils, dishwashers, a pantry to store extra ingredients, a walk-in freezer, refrigerator, all these things that are missing from brick and mortar. You are mobile in a food truck. So these are, well, you don't have to pay rent though. Yeah, but I also don't have a roof. If it's raining, my customers get rained on for the most part. So this becomes contentious, and this is one of the reasons why I was a real advocate for them forming an owners association in Southern Nevada. So the other challenge, aside from these simple ones, like I said, the food trucks are not always in the same place. They are very often moving around. Now, some food trucks post up on their favorite corner. They get a spot that they like. Maybe they get a rotation that they like. Like, okay, we're going to be here every Tuesday, and they never change. So with momentum, you can be found. Okay, by the fourth Tuesday, people get it. You're going to be here on Tuesdays. Are you going to be here tomorrow? Nope. I'm going to be somewhere else entirely. And that can throw people off. Well, how do I find you? Go to Facebook. Well, now go to Instagram. I literally just checked out one of my favorite food trucks in the Bay Area, which is apparently still in business, which is good. The person that owns it, great guy. Business is good. The food is amazing. Somebody posted a comment and said, I only just saw this post 3 days after this event you're at. I would have gone, blah, blah, blah. Because Instagram doesn't post in calendar order. They post in revenue generation order. So they're going to show you pictures, Instagram posts, reels, etc. when they want to. So come to this food truck event tomorrow. Is that tomorrow from today, or is that tomorrow a week ago? And I've told many times over the years, hey, by the way, I'm literally just being shown this by the algorithm, and this event was 3 days ago. And food truck owners are like, well, what can I do? Because they're using the tools that are available, and the tools that are available are not purpose-built. They're not built for moving businesses and moving customers and trying to connect them in real time or in future. Hey, food truck, where are you going to be in a week? If I have a regular spot, I'll be right here. If I don't have a regular spot, don't know. Shoulder shrug. Thriving marketplace where mobile vendors are allowed to go where their customers are, which is not always possible, but in the Bay Area, it was pretty good, pretty friendly to mobile vending. They may rarely circle back. They may not be there in a week. They may not be in the same location in a timely fashion. Like, hey, when are you going to be here again? I'm in a 2-week rotation, but sometimes I don't show up again in 2 weeks because I have another event or another booking. So sometimes business and opportunity dictate where a food truck will be, a mobile vendor in general. And so finding them can become a bit of a chore, because now you're trying to maintain connection with your customers through something as simplistic as Instagram or TikTok. Like, hey, here's a video of where I will be in a week. Those are hard to produce. Now you're adding content creation to the very long list of things a mobile vendor must deal with already. I always tell people the food truck that it's all the fun and risk of a restaurant, and it can break down on the side of the road on your way to try to do business. So now you lose out on the business and you got to fix your transmission. True stories. So fans of mobile vendors, certainly of food trucks, are usually willing to go to their favorites. They will make the trip if they know. The precise tolerable distance varies, of course. So like, would you travel to Capitola for your favorite food truck? Some might not. But if they know that they're going to be in a certain place, they might. And I have talked to customers who are livid, and this is even here in Vegas. I was told the baked potato truck was going to be here. I made the trip all the way up here to the Centennial Hills area, which is, it's a bit of a drive for some people. It's probably 12 miles from the center of the downtown area, 12, 15 miles, give or take. And if they're coming from Henderson, double that. So if they came here for this vendor and that vendor's not there, they're frustrated. And there's a balance to be made. Well, if you tell people which food trucks are going to be there, they may not come because their favorite food truck isn't there. Like, okay, but if they do come there and their favorite food truck isn't there, they leave frustrated. On the other hand, if you do tell them which food trucks will be there and you make the information about each vendor visible in an easy way, they may say, oh, I would like to try out this new mobile vendor that I've never seen before. So it's not even a fair comparison. So be honest and tell your customers when you're going to be someplace, when you have to cancel and so on. They are fine. They will return. But they will make that trip if they know where you're going to be. And the distance will vary, of course. And this is one of the things that would be interesting to capture because you actually can. What is your zone of regulars? How far are they willing to travel? And make sure you engage with your regulars and tell them where you're going to be so that they might travel. Also, is it during the day? Are you concerned with maybe a work location versus a home location in the evening? The list goes on. So there's all sorts of things. I always called it mobile vendor, mobile customer, right? People are moving around. Or Twitter back in the day, Facebook, and then now Instagram and TikTok are interesting for marketing and pushing the foodie angle. Taking pictures of food is great, and foodies will do that all day. I used to do that. Post attractive photographs of the food of my favorite food trucks. It's kind of low-hanging fruit, really. These are not purpose-built tools. You are making use of them, but they are not always on your side, and often they are not. They're like actively against you. I witnessed the example I gave already. Like, I use TikTok to advertise to my customers, but TikTok doesn't show my content on the For You page before the event. It sometimes shows it after, or maybe the Instagram Reels, same problem. So your customer would have to know to follow you and to visit your Instagram or TikTok page, profile, whatever, to get the latest information. Now, as I told the owner of a grilled cheese food truck called something My Heart, Grilled Cheese My Heart or something like that. I think his name was Brian. Super nice guy. He said, hey, I paid $1,500 for iPhone, Android, and website. So mobile applications and website. And I said, Brian, okay, website, good. I follow like 100 food trucks on Twitter. Would I install an application for each one of those? No. There has to be an easy way to find information about your favorite food trucks if you are so inclined, but to not make it so much extra work that you're like, oh, I got to check 93 different websites. I got to install 93 different applications. So aggregation of schedules and so on something, I don't know, like a calendar in a map. And you'll often see these in simplified form, like food trucks in, roaming hunger. Best Food Trucks now is a kind of a big player. Here's a map of all the food trucks in your area. Food Trucks in and Street Food Finder. Street Food Finder is another good one. They're calendar and map centric, so that's good. But they make it not so easy for the vendors to support. And here's the problem. I'm a mobile food vendor. Now I got to sign up with all these different services: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Street Food Finder, Food Trucks in, Best Food Trucks, Roaming Hunger. The list goes on. street food army, food truck army, whatever it is. There's just a tremendous number of places that need you to sign up, register your truck, somehow indicate your schedule, what and why, because they monetize business development. So they get between you and your customers and say, oh, you want to book this food truck? Book one of our food trucks. So they kind of build a business on the shoulders of the mobile vendors. This is not great. Unfortunately, it is sometimes the way because an inexperienced food truck owner or mobile vendor in general doesn't always have the time, doesn't always have the market reach. Like, how do I book more business? And I got to tell you, how many times have I said this to the food truck vendors in the Vegas area? You paid for the wrap on your truck. Your truck has your logo and your color scheme and all that. It's very pretty. You should be driving it around every day. Oh, we only do First Friday, and like, okay, so you paid all this money for the food truck. You're going to pay $450, $500, whatever it is, to First Friday Foundation to park in one place. Why are you not getting new customers so that you can go every day and have a lunch at a business park, cater an event, a fundraiser at a school? Because when you're driving around on the city streets, you're advertising your brand. You should be very easy to find. You should have a website. Don't build apps. Have a website so people can find you. One of the most famous food trucks in the Bay Area, Koja Kitchen, Korean Japanese fusion, great stuff. I was there for their opening day in San Jose. They've blown up. They have like multiple brick and mortar locations. I think they still have a food truck. For the first 5 years that they were in business, exploding, they had a one-page website. It pointed to their Twitter handle, like, here, find out where we are today. Go to Twitter. They had one person of the team of 5 co-founders, one person dedicated to responding to every social media post they could find. So anyone who took a picture, posted a comment, anything, his job was to respond to every single one. One-page website. Very proactive customer engagement. They won, or they're still winning. So the interesting parts. When I was working on RegularDB, which was my platform for service industry to connect with their customers, I found out a few things. Fans and regulars will make a reasonable journey, like I said, if they know where to go, when. They might even tell other people about it. So they'll say, hey, let's go over here. I know somebody. People want to go where they know your name, that whole business. So they'll tell other people about their favorites. And if they have a place to point to, like, hey, we're going over here. Do I have to install? You just have to install the Bartender Finder app. You have to install the Food Truck Finder app. You have to install, no, just give me a link. Drop a pin, as they would say, if you're a WeChat person. Local media likes to talk about food trucks and food truck events in particular. Witness the link I provided previously about Kevin Ford and his upcoming K27Y food trailer. So you write an article about it, and then where do they point you? K27Y coming soon. That doesn't help anyone. And then imagine you have spelled your K27Y. Oh, I thought it was K29Y. I did an experiment several times at various food truck events in the Bay Area, but it doesn't matter. Anywhere. I would, not creepily, but I would stand near where, so typically you order your food, your items from the vendor, and then you step aside, or there's maybe a service window, or, so you're basically waiting. So the person in front of me who would grab their order, they now have maybe some clamshells or other containers, maybe bags in their hands. They turn around, and I would say to them, hey, can you tell me the name of this food truck? And 50% of the time, they could not. And I've been told, it was a pink food truck and they had bagels, or there's this very vague notion. Why? Because it's not something you see every day. Even if you are a fan of food trucks, that new one that you'd never heard of before, you're like, oh, what was the name of that one? And then what ends up happening is that the food truck website that we found it on Roaming Hunger. Well, can I figure out who was at this location yesterday or last week? That information is often tossed aside. There are 2 reasons to keep that information. One, so that customers can figure out which food trucks were there last week. I'm trying to remember that one that had the skewers with oh yes, it was this one. And then the other one is this is useful marketplace analytic data. If you have a marketplace analytics that you can share with a city council, a zoning department, local businesses, like here's the impact on this locality, right? Here's the data. Here's the maybe you have like a check-in scheme, or you have a loyalty program of some sort, or you can actually measure who is coming when, which opportunities are best, which food truck or vendor pairings or groups work out better. By the way, when you're booking food trucks, if you have an inexperienced booker, and this has really happened, oh, I booked 6 food trucks for this event. The food trucks don't know about each other. They know each other, but they don't know who is going to be where when. The 6 pull up and they're like, why is it 3 Korean barbecue and 3 ice cream trucks? Like, who did this? So being able to provide advice, useful advice about pairings and other vendor selections, time of year, seasonal offerings, etc. So there's a whole bunch of nuance that comes with making use of this data that I don't believe a salesperson is either aware of or capable of taking advantage of. Often they're having their platform built by we'll say external developers who don't know, they don't know the marketplace. They don't know how mobile vending works. They may not be familiar with how American markets work. And this has been true of a couple of different tools, including one developed right here, sort of in Vegas, called Where's the Food Truck? So that platform is an example of complete nonsense, complete absence of awareness, because it is built to book events and to draw commissions on those events, to stand between the vendor and the customer. So there you go. So there are interesting parts to all this. And this is one of the reasons why I was doing all this. And so that's where we're getting down into the local media wants to talk about this stuff. They don't know where to look. There is very little in the way of a market analysis, like I said. So market mobile vending tools in general, they really, the better ones, like I said, Street Food Finder, Food Trucks In, their maps and calendars. And these are essential. So I'm not downplaying that. If you can build a calendar-centric tool that gets the map data correct on the right days on the calendar, and this is harder than it sounds because people get it wrong all the time. Hey, the app told me you're going to be whatever at 2 a.m. This is another true story, right? The food truck owner was frustrated because, like a dozen people were bad-mouthing me on Twitter because I wasn't at some location at 2 a.m. Like, who said I was going to be there at 2 a.m.? Oh, Roaming Hunger said, like, I didn't provide them that information. They just made that up. So being wrong about something as simple as location and calendar can be a real problem. But getting those right is the beginning of a usable platform, making it easy to figure out where a vendor is going to be not only today and right now, but later and tomorrow, next week. These are things that that affect social activation, whether people will show up. And portable variety, of course, comes in handy when you say, here is the food truck that's going to be there tomorrow. Oh, it's a new one. It's one I'm not familiar with Ecuadorian tamales. I'm not familiar with Argentinian rice bowls. Whatever. Pick a thing. The portable variety component comes in when people know to look. Like, I'm interested in food trucks. I'm interested in food trucks near my workplace. I'm interested in particular ethnic varieties. And let's not even get into special dietary needs. These are all things that I have always thought are left on the table. They are. So there were some of the behind the scenes focus areas for my platform were based on my own interactions with all of the players, the event organizers, the venue owners, the vendors. I even had conversations with the commissary and parking locations. And I actually was in the middle of making deals about having deliveries made to commissaries in the Bay Area. This is you have to park your food truck at a commissary. So that was that. So what if we could do bulk ordering and deliveries to the commissaries for all of the members of our Bay Area Mobile Food Vendors Association? And the company, it wasn't Cisco, it was a competitor. And they're like, yeah, we could do that. There could be a discount. You just do the bulk ordering ahead of time. We're talking dry goods and, cups, plates, utensils, actual food, ingredients, and so on. So all this stuff was possible. And if you could integrate, like, oh, okay, here's the schedule. So you're going to be busy over the next 2 weeks. Let's coordinate a time when a delivery could be made. Yeah, you get the idea. So this is actual systems thinking, not sales thinking. How did I come up with all this? Well, I learned by doing. I mentioned that I came across the food truck scene in the Bay Area at Edgewood Eats. Edgewood would advertise on Facebook, and then Twitter, So like Twitter was okay because you could cross promote everybody, like tag the other 10 food trucks. You'd use up your whole tweet space with links to your competitors. No, it's a cooperative competition environment. So when vendors in a small business marketplace understand co-opetition, if you get a new customer, I might get that customer later because we are all in different places, moving around and working together and not working together and so on. So there's really no reason to be cutthroat or not be helpful in some way, not to the detriment of your own business, but hey, I spent all my time helping you and then I got screwed over. That's not good, but still not the opposite where you just turn your back on everyone. That's a problem. Sometimes that becomes a real problem. Sometimes it's not noticeable. There are some mobile vendors in the Vegas area that are so well established and liked with enough exposure and brand awareness that they don't have to care and it doesn't come back on them. So those are outliers. But I did work on 7 food trucks in the Bay Area. Every time I would hear, have you ever owned a food truck? I would say no. But how many food trucks have you worked on? Well, 1, I own a food truck. Well, I worked on 7. It's not owning, but it is different types of experience. So you can't just discount experience. I worked on Mayo and Mustard, which was an amazing food truck, which I believe has not been in business for a long time. Miso Hungry, which was a good food truck, but the owners did not get along. So ultimately bad. They were not good business people. Arabian Bites, the owner of that food truck, which was despite Arabian Bites, it was a Persian food truck making traditional Persian meals. The owner, Sarah, grew up with her dad. Her dad was the cook in the family. So if her parents ever visited an event, her dad wanted to get on the truck and start cooking. And that was some of the best Persian food you'd ever find. So I worked on their food truck now and then. In my role with the Owners Association, and even before, it was like, hey, Dan, we need somebody to fill in, or what are you doing next Thursday? We have an event. We need a couple of extra people. I was always happy to help out because this was a learning experience for me. A food truck called Forbidden City, which was Hong Kong style barbecue, Asian, really, really good food. Kind of a I'm not gonna say unattractive, but like not even unappealing, but just not a food truck that popped. It was a P40, so it looked like a taco truck. It was red, not very exciting with the wrap. The owner was a little bit angry. Nice guy, super nice guy, but just a little like frustrated with the whole scene with event organizers taking over. It was the days when it was Food Truck Mafia, Movable Feast, and what's the other one? What's the one in the Bay Area? Matt, totally spacing. It'll come to me eventually. Anyway, Porky's, super good Vietnamese pork meals. Porky Tots their food was good. How, great guy. I've been to his house, just a super nice guy. And I would work on their truck frequently. That was fun. Tacos Mod Mex, I think I mentioned this already. Super good food, a trained chef. I would help him out every once in a while. I believe it was his daughter working on the truck sometimes, but she was going to school, so happy to help him out. The one time that I had a meeting with PayPal to talk about working more closely with mobile payment solutions, Tacos Mod Mex was working at eBay. So I said, hey, Gabe, can we wander over? And the guy driving PayPal at the time, Italian guy, we went and had an espresso at the coffee shop at PayPal. And we wandered over to a food truck and he had a tour. So he Gabe gave him the once over twice inside and out. And we were talking about things like, why do card readers fail? Because these magstripe readers that you stick in the headphone jack in your phone are operating in this kitchen environment. So they would get greasy, they would fail. And Square, was it Square? SquarePay? Is that right? Square? Yeah, I think it was Square. They used to also have readers that you plug into your phone, headphone jack. They sent me like a dozen readers. I said, hey, is there a way we can deal with this readers failing in the field? So they sent me a dozen. They said, here, if they fail, just give them a new one. Can't beat that. So there was something to be said for working with an owners association. So all kinds of upsides. There is a seventh food truck. I've named 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's a seventh one, and I cannot remember the name. It didn't last very long. Very long. It was a food truck in Sunnyvale, California, which is where I actually lived. Food trucks were all over the place, but this one was based at a commissary in the city of Sunnyvale. So that was the only one. And she was making, she had initially a sort of, maybe it was like home style kitchen. Oh, and there might have been an 8th food truck even. This is something I was going to check. So the food truck was, I'll find it one of these days. That food truck was interesting. She started off with making like middle America down home, home cooking, home style kitchen, something like that, maybe. She eventually moved to doing sort of sensitive menu, so gluten-free. She had a split kitchen, so she could avoid cross-contamination. So she was very sensitive to preparing foods that would not contain cross-contamination. So that was a good thing. Unfortunately, to do that well, you really got to have a lot of customers that appreciate this, and they have to know where you are all the time. And she was a one-person company, so she really didn't have the resources to do the proper outreach. This is not a question of being found on a platform or tweeting enough. This is about customer education and knowing, what the options are. And, can you make gluten-free this, or can you make peanut-free that? Like, you have to actually educate your customers as to the reason. There was a guy who was allergic to shellfish. There was a Louisiana food truck. He said, we don't have shellfish on the truck today. So the person, I talked to the customer, he said, just a side discussion. He said, yeah, they said they didn't have shellfish, but I still could feel luckily he didn't have like an anaphylactic shock reaction. It was more like an itchy back of the throat. So you can tell when they had shellfish yesterday or something, right? So it's not really a non-cross contamination kitchen. Thank you. So I really want to find that. Let's look in. I'll give up after this, but no. Well, okay. So somewhere in there's a list of 7 food trucks, and I want to say there was a 7th one. But anyway, the fact is I saw different types of ethnicities as far as the food styles, different types of customers, different types of venues and events and so on. So very educational. There were some runners up where people would invite me to come into their food trucks all the time. Just some amazing stuff. Yeah, good times. Organizing events, working with event organizers, presenting to city councils in 2 different cities, Sunnyvale and Mountain View, in the Bay Area to change rules for mobile vending in favor of, speaking at a couple of small law schools that nobody's ever heard about regarding mobile vending regulations. This was Berkeley, Stanford, and USF, University of San Francisco law schools. If you've heard of them, great. I actually had an opportunity to speak not only with Matt Geller, who was the founder, he's an attorney from the Southern California Mobile Food Vendors Association, with whom we worked to form our association, but I also I joined Bert Gall from the Institute for Justice, and he had written a book called Streets of Dreams about protectionist legislation in different cities that would prevent mobile vendors from competing with brick and mortars and stuff. So Bert, really nice guy, definitely walking the walk. Matt, doing the work, supporting initially his friends who owned a food truck who got a parking ticket, and he was a young, just out of law school, whippersnapper, and said, hey, this is not right. So my viewpoint was, yeah, this isn't right that you're getting jerked around by event organizers, getting their fees. If you've ever been in the restaurant business, you know that the margins on restaurant business they're very thin. You're lucky if you make gross margins before you've paid your employees and whatnot. But if just cost of goods, well, that does include all that. So most food truck owners are not accountants, and many of them did not grow up with an accountant in the family, and especially a family that owned a restaurant like I did. So they would have really no sense of what it meant to make a profit. They would make money, and that was whatever was in the register. Oh, I made $50,000 at the EDC, the Electric Daisy Carnival. I heard that from an owner here in Vegas. I made $50,000. Like, okay, is that the top line or the bottom line? I knew it was the top line. So you bring in 60,000, you got to pay your percentage, your revenue share to the event, the organizers. Sometimes they'll make you use their point of sale terminal so they can keep track of all of your sales, and they end up paying you your money. You got to pay your employees, you got to pay for your extra ingredients, you got to pay for any permitting, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a whole list of goods or costs. So the cost of goods sold at some events will vary. It's hard to get a fixed number. You can break down the actual what is it, material costs, your bill of materials, ingredients, and so on. So like this is the cost. And by the way, portion control, cost per serving, these are things that are very foreign to new food truck owners. And I will be curious to see when Kevin Ford opens his K27Y food trailer. If you work at Burger King for 27 years, and he was cooking for Burger King, it's not that you don't understand portions, but the portioning has been done. The pricing has been done. You may have to do some bookkeeping on waste, on products that wasn't sold, it wasn't prepared, so you have to account for that in your inventory. But do you understand portions, cost per portion, cost per serving, how that factors into your cost of goods? And then if you got to hire people to work at an extra busy event, the cost of the goods sold goes up because now I got to pay extra people to sell these things. So COGS for variables don't always get accounted for. So I made $60,000. Well, but did you have to spend $52,000 to do that? Maybe. Those events usually do. That's not usually that bad. But without knowing any of your numbers, if you just look at those gross lines, you may not know that, that wasn't quite as good. And I almost had the name of the San Francisco. What is it called? Cart. Totally spacing. By the way, their logo or their tagline is one that I've used frequently. Take back the streets. And what's his name? I'm going to look it up. LinkedIn. Matt. The fun part is it's not Matt Geller. It's Matt Cohen. Matt Cohen, Cohen. So Matt Geller and Matt Cohen didn't really get along in the ways of supporting mobile food vending and whatnot. What's the name? Off the Grid. How could I not know that? Off the Grid, it kind of put San Francisco on the map thanks to some of their event stuff. So anyway, the famous one, the Off the Grid, just named Off the Grid. It was at an Army base, Presidio. No, not Presidio, but it was on federal property, not county or city or state even. So federal property. It was an old military location, not the Presidio. So you could have a food truck event there. You didn't need to have all of your permits and other paperwork done because you're operating on federal property. So this allowed new food trucks to kind of launch there and so on. So it was an interesting model. Matt Cohen was not necessarily an evil person. I've encountered evil people, but he was somewhat dictatorial, maybe a benevolent dictator, but dictatorial nonetheless. So it made it difficult for people to do business not with Off the Grid, and that caused trouble for our owners association. I don't want to upset Matt. So that was an interesting time to learn about. And of course, Vegas being the type of place it is, similar things to be concerned about. So social media does not work for scheduled events. That's something you'll hear all the time. Often letting people know about their favorites too late or even after. And I see this all the time. And because there is so much dependence on social media for independent small businesses, mobile vendors, or they sign up with a horrible tool like Where's the Food Truck? It used to be WTF, Where's the Food Truck? Or similar, and then the platform doesn't really promote the vendors, like, we don't care who you do business with. Book your food truck through us. Book one of our food trucks through our website. And the website was designed by someone who doesn't understand the intricacies of mobile marketplace. So it just ends up being a disappointment across the board, and people just go wing it, perhaps. So a lot left on the table. These are interesting times. The platform on which I was working was getting really close to being something usable, something I would have called like a version 0.9 beta. I would visit food truck events in the evenings to show little demos of different features and functionality that was evolving during my daily visits to the bean scene where Kenny worked. So I was like a daily fixture in there. I would do demos to the people in the coffee shop. You end up with this little coffee clutch of people working on their startup ideas and whatnot. I had a house fire in April of 2013 that pretty much put an end to my efforts. Significantly blocked forward progress. And I moved to Vegas in July. So I was pretty much out of there. I handed everything off. The owners association notion collapsed. Too many factions. Nobody understood what was going on. It's too bad. Some other drama when I moved to Vegas about my roommate. And then I got a job with Intel in technically January of 2014. So I was living in Vegas for 4 months, really? Call it August 1st, August, September, October, November, December. 5 months. Did you count along with me? So August, I lived here for all of August. So August, September, October. October is when I first started kind of reaching out into the scene in Vegas after I kind of figured out how things worked. I had to move again. That was some interesting times. So October, November, December. November, I was definitely participating in downtown activities. I was becoming aware of how the food truck scene worked here at the time and some of the opposition to having food trucks around and so on. So that was interesting. And then I started working for Intel, got the offer in January after CES in 2014. Did my new employee orientation, NEO, in February, and then I was kind of absent, so I couldn't really participate in the local scene so much. So I kind of tabled everything, and the pandemic made the Owners Association here tricky. That was going to be a part of how I would relaunch this development effort to build better tools to service the members of the organization to get things started. Pandemic came along, kind of screwed that up. The people here are definitely not Silicon Valley food truck owners. In Silicon Valley, everybody was generally like curious, at least, about innovation. Here, it's very much about me, not others. And that's generally true in Vegas. So the challenges are similar, though, even though the people, the vendors here are different. There's there's not that sense of co-opetition as much, so more cutthroat. And it's mostly because nobody develops new market spots. They rely on First Friday and event organizers making fees and rev share the name of the game. And that's where you get this side eye look. Like, how are you trying to take advantage of me? How are you going to try to reduce my take home percentage? How are you going to eat away at the barely making any sort of profit model that I'm stuck in right now? So it's a different realm that has been very educational. So there's the light of day, perhaps. My platform as designed is still viable. It would still work. Mobile vending is not going away anytime soon. I would argue there's even more opportunity for mobile vending as neighborhoods grow, more homes, more apartments, more high density housing. These are all opportunities to bring portable variety to people where they live. If you could get city, county buy-in, so to speak, on some of the permitting, on allowing events on city properties and so on, you could turn parks into social gathering places. You could have a Saturday in the park. It doesn't have to be at night. It could be during the day. And you'll see some of these here in Vegas. There'll be especially school fundraising events and so on. So they do work. People do attend. Again, most of the pushback is from brick and mortar vendors, businesses. I once attended charity event at a local school. It's a long walk from where I live. They wanted 3 food trucks. They wanted 2 food and 1 dessert truck, I think it was. So you can have 2 food trucks and you don't need a permit, but you need 3. If you have 3 permits, 3 food trucks, you need 1 permit. The cost of the permit from the health department was $300 or something. Their total take from the charity fundraising event was not $300. So because of the and this event was easily 5,000 feet from the nearest restaurant entrance. So the entire notion of the protectionist permitting system is based on being downtown or near business centers with a lot of retail, restaurant establishments and so on, not for more suburban areas and so on. So just totally broken, not going to be fixed by one food truck owner complaining. So that was the joy of having the amplified voice of an owners association. But unfortunately, the what's in it for you side eye that I would get did not take into account like, well, I'm building this application. It will help to make communication and engagement and data collection and analysis. And no, they didn't want to hear that. So the terrain is now filled with apps and websites that fuel their business and commissions, their business model with commissions on bookings. They often stand squarely between the individual vendors and their customers. So again, book our food trucks. So can I book without you? Like they really want to get between and maintain that interstitial relationship. And I always say, I don't want you to visit my website. I don't want you to talk to me. I want you to go have lunch at a food truck. So I really abhorred that model and I always try to avoid it. I'm sensitive to the margins of food business in general and the even thinner margins of mobile vendors, food trucks and otherwise. By the way, most sites will focus completely and totally on food trucks. They completely ignore farmers markets, non-food vendors. They're out there. Farmers markets are a big thing. Advertising vendors that will be at farmers markets is almost completely non-existent. Hey, who was that? Who was selling honey last month at this farmers market? I don't know. You have to go find the person that runs the farmers market and they can look it up. So make the vendors the star of the show. Are they coming for the farmers market or are they coming for the vendors at the farmers market, right? So you build that into, like, you keep the customer relationship clear. My customer is the vendor. Their customer is their customer. Done, right? And this was the regular DB problem that I didn't want to deal with, right? My customer is not the bartender, the barista, the esthetician. So it makes it, the whole relationship gets a little bit convoluted. I'm thinking like an internet developer though, not as a commission salesperson. So to me, a flat rate, $10 a month, $9.99 if you want, an annual break. So 10 months, to $100 for a year, something like that. Less than minimum wage per month, or nowadays it'd be, depending on where you are, less than minimum wage in some states, California. I would always say, would you pay somebody minimum wage to do your tweeting sure. So would you pay 1 hour for automating that? And that was a no-brainer. If you ever want to see people say, can I give you my money now? That was encouraging, but except for a house fire and so on. But the business model of my competition is kind of broken and it doesn't end up really helping. And the information is not accurate. Why? Because of the nature of the model, they want food trucks to sign up and the food truck is new and they're like, oh, I got to sign up for everybody. And then most of these platforms don't really offer much value. So they end up withering. There are listings for food trucks that are no longer open because they just left the business. The schedules are not current. If they are open for business, the list goes on. By the way, part of my model is to publish all this data freely so others could build, like, you want to build a food truck app? Here's all the schedule information for all the vendors in your area. Do a value add on top of that. Don't have them sign up for a new service. So next steps. Oh, and by the way, the whole marketplace has evolved since I've been pondering this. So Twitter and Instagram, Twitter, of course, definitely not. Instagram, less so, as an automated posting point. I used to be able to automate posts to these things. Like, oh, you just have your schedule. We'll automatically post Twitter Twitter posts with GPS tagging. So they broke all that. Like, here's where we're going to be tomorrow. Geographically correct parking locations. So some people will post Google Maps or Google Earth view of a particular area, and they'll have arrows like, we're going to be here behind this building, because knowing the address of the building doesn't really help with that. So you got to be visually helpful. So automating all of these things, using correct GPS locations, correct calendars, publishing information in open formats so people could build on them. These were all built in, and this is all old hat. So nowadays, how you share that information and getting the word out, being aware of special food needs and different regulations. So you can actually look at parcel. There's a huge parcel database service. I think it's called, it's not Placemark. It's that's geographical indexing. It's called, I don't remember. They do parcel data. So you could literally figure out if you're in this parking lot, here are all the regulations that apply. Here's the actual owner. Fun fact, hey, the tenant, this actually happened with Lazy Boy and Total Wine here in Centennial Hills. Yeah, the Lazy Boy people said we could park here. Well, the Total Wine people don't want you to park here. And it turns out neither of those people can give you permission to park in a parking lot they don't own. You have to contact the property owner. So knowing who the property owner is, having them involved, have a letter of intent. If a code enforcement officer shows up, you can show them, here's the letter, the property owner has signed off on this. Making property owners and tenants aware of the schedule so that nobody's surprised. Oh, I didn't know that food truck was supposed to be here. I gave them permission, but not for today, that kind of stuff. So make scheduling transparent, use standard tools, et cetera, et cetera. So the next steps, navigating around a little bit. So the next steps for food trucks and Dan Hugo. I've not participated in the local Vegas food truck or mobile vending scene in years. The pandemic pretty much ended the Mobile Owners Association, or my participation in it. Easily half of the vendors were so squirrely and not supportive and a little bit cutthroat, and there's always factions. There's one particular food truck owner who really wants to run the universe. He's obnoxious and violent. He almost hit somebody with his truck one time. The person that owns wears the food truck platform is a moron. So it's a weird place to do business. The tools have not improved in the slightest. So my competitors out there, not impressed. While there may be opportunities coming to the infamous Arts District with this food park opening, which I talked about top of the show, there are only so many slots, right? You can only have so many food trucks in this lot. I got to go see how big the lot is. One of these days I'll wander down there. But if people can grow to understand that food trucks can appear in places and times other than First Friday, starting at the Arts District, but they don't have to be in the Arts District either. I used to tell people, you can have a First Friday wherever you are. You can have First Friday up here in Centennial Hills. You can have a First Friday down in Henderson. You can have a First Friday in Summerlin. There are enough food trucks to go around. You don't all have to pack everybody into a giant. Parking is hard here. It's one of the main complaints about First Friday. Parking is such a pain. So have First Friday events all over Greater Vegas, not just downtown in the Arts District. Possibilities. So with these opportunities and the changing landscape and the lack of tooling that keeps up with it, even Best Food Trucks, which Matt Geller runs, it used to be called Lot Mom. That was his way of monetizing his time, because he was mostly, as an attorney, he was not practicing law anymore. He never really did. So I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, he just never really pursued his legal ambitions once he got into the mobile vending space. So he used to monetize some lots, and he had this platform he built called Lot Mom, which eventually became Best Food Trucks. And they've attempted to move into a Vegas marketplace, so you could book food trucks in Vegas through them. Not really seeing a lot of adoption. I think he probably ran into the same trouble, which is like, you don't own a food truck. He's like, yeah, but I did found Southern California Mobile Food Vendors Association, and then the National Food Truck Association. I also founded that. And they're like, yeah, but you don't own a food truck. That's the thinking here. Like, I know more than you about this. And they're like, so you don't own a food truck. That's it. So the tools haven't improved. There are opportunities that there's nobody really catching up with. In the example of Kevin Ford and his food trailer post Burger King, you will find countless articles writing about him, TMZ, different local media, etc. But he doesn't have a website. He doesn't have any sort of findable presence online, so he's going to rely on social media. Good luck. How are you going to know to find K27Y? What does that even mean? So if local media, food bloggers, etc., don't know where to find him, the countless food truck owners would use their personal Twitter or Instagram accounts. Like, where do I find Empanada Us? Like, oh, it's at John Smith on Instagram. Like, what? Why? So mobile vendors are really caught off guard when it comes to being findable. And it turns out the mobile vendor marketplace has some churn to it. So there are some people that have a food truck for a decade or two. Talco's Mod Mex is one such food truck. I think he's still operating. How do you know? Oh, you can check for the most recent Instagram post. And if it's not 3 years ago, probably still in business. But being able to identify, like, is my favorite vendor still in business? Where are they going to be this Friday? Can I go visit them? These are simple questions that are profoundly difficult to answer with a small business model that is interesting. It's not novel anymore. It is interesting and can work around things like construction or competition or special events versus normal events, or again, portable variety, bringing portable variety to different areas that are underserved, etc. In the Bay Area, we actually looked at how can we enable food trucks to visit food deserts and receive subsidies to bring variety to underserved neighborhoods, right? This was totally on the table. You can do that here too. Integration with external tools becomes the main focus. So the things that I was working on years ago, if you start with calendar and map, those things are fairly fundamental. You create a portal, you focus the web notion, the web platform, the web interactions with vendors and booking. So you own a food truck, great. You want to book a food truck, great. This is not about stealing a customer. It's, hey, I have an event coming up. It's a charity. It's at a school. There's going to be about this many people. Who wants to participate? Enable the connection between booker, organizer, and vendors, and whoever signs up. Now you can start automatically making that event public. Like, hey, can I publish an event page for my event in our school newsletter? Bam. Can we, one of my most famous interactions for me, there's a law firm in Palo Alto called Morrison Forrester, MoFo. That's their, they abbreviate that themselves. So they would have a food truck there all the time for lunch. And it was as simple as this. If the office manager, I don't know how that works in a law firm, but there was one person with superpowers. If that person sent out an email saying the food truck is in the parking lot and it's this food truck today, there would be a certain level of business. If that email was not sent, the food truck in the parking lot would receive approximately 50% of the business they would receive if the email did go out. So I was speaking to a food truck owner. I almost remember it to this day, Graziano Iosa from Speedy Panini. He said, Dan, if she doesn't send out that email, I don't get any money. Like, yeah, why? How can we automate notification of employees? Well, you should be able to build a calendar based on a map. Like, hey, this food truck is here today, but there's a food truck here every day. So I don't need 30 different calendars or 26, 22 calendars. I need one calendar with a different food truck on it every day. So if you view the world of mobile vending as locations, dates, times, vendors, hosts, or venues, you can start building views on the data. You say, hey, I want to see all the food trucks that are at MoFo every month. Just give me a calendar. Done. Hey, I want to build a calendar of all the food trucks that are within 5 miles of my workplace. Done. I want to build a calendar of where all of these 3 food trucks appear together. Done. Right? These are all trivial once you have something as simple as consistent schedule and location or venue data. So the idea was to make that part super simple, to make coordinating the booking or organization, the organizer function, and communicating with vendors like, yes, I can go, I have to cancel, keeping all that information easily available makes for an actual opportunity, because now I don't have to market to like, hey, you gotta use my platform to book your food truck for your office, which is what Where's the Food Truck does, which is what they charge the vendors money. And then they really need to have people use their tools to do the bookings. Best Food Truck, same thing, etc. Roaming Hunger. So all these platforms make money by leveraging vendor information for bookings. In my view, you should leverage vendor and schedule information to provide value to the vendors and their customers. So the booking part is sort of utility, but if the vendor is my customer, the number one concern is I should have your correct schedule, and I should be able to provide that information to anyone who needs it, whether they want to book you, whether they want to patronize you, whether they want to write a blog about you, write a newspaper article, do a segment on a local TV news station. Where do I find you? Where can I send the camera crew? These are all real examples. So making that data available without hiding behind, well, you got to sign up. Well, you got to pay a fee. You got to, none of that. Screw it. So this is about open data, making open data available, the ability to do marketplace analytics and so on. So integration with those external tools becomes interesting. If you can embed an event page as a calendar entry or as an actual page, a link to a page, hey, share this with all of my friends. Here's where we're going. Here's what the food selection is. Not, hey, which food trucks are going to be there? I'm allergic to wheat. I cannot have peanuts. Are there choices there that I can actually eat? You're like, well, here's maybe a partial, none of that. That all goes away. Like, here's who's going to be there. Done. So this is still on the table. I've mentioned in previous episodes of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program about the in Las Vegas information sharing platform. This kind of fits into that. So when in Las Vegas reaches a point where we can actually start deploying the component of it that will help people find mobile vendors in Las Vegas, will be powered by, I've simplified the domain selection down to ftyp.co. Food truck Yplexus, fair truck Yplexus, food tent, fair tent. So are you a booth, tent, stall? Are you selling food or goods? Right. So that's the matrix. Food truck, fair truck. You're on wheels. You're a mobile vehicle. You are a mobile kitchen, or you're a mobile food closet, or a food pantry, or you sell clothing. There's a couple of those floating around Vegas. There used to be anyway. If you're a tent, booth, stall, etc., you might be a fair tent. So I went to FT, meaning everything. The Y plexus is a Y. A plexus is like a network. The Y is the organizer, the vendor, and the customer. Sorry, the venue. The venue and the organizer don't need to be the same thing. So keep the vendor in the middle of everything, not me. And the connection flows through the vendor of the organizers and bookers and whatnot. The venue, so the venue knows who's going to be on their property and whatnot. And then the customers should be able to find you and then maybe book you even for their events. It's that simple. So we'll see if we can fit this in once we get the In Las Vegas platform in a usable state. A long time coming, but I've learned a great deal along the way. And that is the story of food trucks and Dan Hugo. Don't forget to check out buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo, ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo for more updates. Hey, when In Las Vegas launches, when ftyp.co kind of relaunches, I guess, when various other things I've been working on launch, they will make an appearance on these platforms, among other places. So you have a one-stop shop, and I don't have to maintain these websites, which is always nice. So thank you for listening. That is what is up with food trucks. as far as September 4th, 2024 goes. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.